What is up, guys? It's your boy Anaki coming at you with another manga recommendation. In this case, it's the case for Undead Unluck. Now, a couple of things to understand about Undead Unluck. It had terrible marketing. Having the first promotional image of this series be Andy grabbing Fuko's breast under her shirt while she looks terrified and he's hauling ass definitely was not something that was going to make a lot of readers, go ahead and check it out. It's definitely a major turnoff for many people for obvious reasons. That said, once you get past the first two chapters, especially, the raunchier nature of the series almost completely vanishes as instead it replaced with a lot more genuine down-to-earth interactions while still being a high-octane shonen series with a lot of action. Now, even the way that contact is handled in the series later begins to make more sense when you learn about the main character Fuko, who honestly is one of the better female leads running in Shonen Jump right now, who has her own agenda and was originally going to kill herself. These are things you find out within the first 3 pages. Now, the reason why this series is called Undead Unluck is because there are rules within the world, and as these rules are added by God for reasons that are seemingly his own pleasure, and ways to torture humanity effectively before he eventually ends the world, they also get negators or people who are capable of defying them. Fuko was born with the ability Unluck. What this did was cause anybody who made physical contact with her to effectively experience bad luck depending on how long the contact was, how intimate it was, and whether or not she actually cared about them or not. So the more she disliked someone, the less effective the ability actually was. What this ends up doing, though, is creating a world where she can't touch people, can't have hugs, can't give her family kisses. These are things that are kind of highlighted within the first chapter, even to the extent where she's never had a haircut just to make sure that no barber ever touched her hair for too long and eventually ended up succumbing to the unluck and dying. So she eventually plans to kill herself because she's read a manga series, completed it, and now her life is at a close. She doesn't feel any reason to keep going because she can't have romance, she can't have intimacy and close bonds. As far as she's concerned, she can have none of those things. So why on earth would she want to stay in this world if she could not have proper connections with people and was forced to never interact with anybody properly? This changes, though, because she meets Andy, aka Undead. Now, Undead, as you can probably guess, his ability negates death. He cannot die. He will consistently regenerate no matter what happens. In fact, part of the reason why Undead is even invested in meeting Fuko is because his hope is that if she grows to love him, she will eventually be able to kill him with her unluck. That is his goal, to die. He does not want to exist anymore. And the beauty of this is that while it was promoted as a raunchy, invasive series, this is actually a genuine attempt at courtship. Over the course of the manga, that he tries his best to woo her and eventually gain her affections and trust and love, because he wants to be able to die, but he wants it to be a consensual thing that she agrees to, that she is okay with giving him, that she actually cares about him. That said, obviously, that also sets up for what could inevitably be a very painful ending for Fuko, depending on how old she is by the time the series runs. Now, there's lots of important story bits that within these past 40 chapters, this is a series with less than 40 chapters, mind you, have been monumental shifts in the way we perceive the world itself. But one of the things that I will tell you without giving you a massive spoiler, because it's imperative that if you decide to read this series, you get to experience some of these reveals for yourself, is that the way that the world works is this. Every time the Union, which is the faction that they eventually try to join and do join, I will spoil that for you so that you understand that the plot does get to progress and they find ways to survive in the world, is that ultimately they are assigned quest by a book, the Book of Apocalypse. They are usually given about a 3-month window to accomplish these quests. If they fail to meet every single quest, they will be penalized with another rule. One of the rules in this case being that we get to see is Uma Galaxy. And what the rule Galaxy did was make it so that all of humanity always existed in a world, as far as they knew, where aliens always existed. They were always out in the world, and they were eventually willing to come to invade Earth. Now, the thing is that everybody on the Earth gets to know this, but people like Undead and Unluck are negators, so they do not actually get the information shift when the rules are added. So they have to rely on average people to work with them, the negators, in order to be informed on what's actually changing around the world and how it's affected people's perceptions of reality. So even if those aliens are added today, the world will believe that that's how it has always been. To that same degree, days of the week were a part of that condition, like the names of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, which is something that we didn't necessarily realize, but was well foreshadowed and structured within the series. Now, this, and keep in mind, I'm talking about a series that's 40 chapters, less than 40 chapters, actually setting up different plot reveals for what may only be like a 70 to 80 chapter series. I'm not sure how long this is intended to run, but I do think it's an enjoyable series that you should pick up because of the fact that when we talk about these abilities, the way it's undead, unluck, there's later abilities like unfeel. You can certainly get a certain chain, like a pattern to it all, where you can kind of look at different people's names, maybe piece together certain abilities that way. But the most important thing is that as these characters grow, this isn't one of those series where the bond feels contrived. These are people who go on missions together, who learn about the world that they're in and what they're interacting with together as an experience. And relationships in general are very important throughout the series. This is not one that's like, hey, the bonds of friendship are important, and they just like kind of talk about it. But even early in the series, they constantly are fleshing out the dynamics between characters, why they care about each other, their ambitions, and how it feeds into each other. Their reality is that the steps that people take to show each other that they care within the series are all genuine strokes that would translate very well to real life scenarios. The desire for death is something that pops up in multiple characters' lives. Undead seeks death. Unluck seeks death when she's, reaches 18, like I mentioned earlier in the video. There's another character who literally requests to be killed later in the series. There's a consistent theme of being a negator, kind of destroying your life because you don't know when these abilities are going to manifest or how it's going to harm yourself or the people you care about. So as these people are going through these journeys, figuring out these powers that, based on the rules of the series, if a negator dies, their ability just instantly transfers to someone else. So someone's life randomly gets changed forever just because of something that somebody else in the world dying randomly. They have no say in this. They just simply have these abilities until they either join the union, become a criminal, end up in a zoo, end up trafficked, because that's a big thing. People will capture different rules and negators and sell them on the black market for people's amusement. So this is a world where things are known, it's dark, and they have there's a dark underworld that has their fun with it, but then you have the quest of killing God. The ultimate agenda is to remove this game from the world so that people can live their lives without having to worry about another penalty being added, without worrying about the apocalypse hanging over their head, where God is going to just show up and destroy everything. So when you look at a character like Andy and what we find out about his backstory and how when they say he's been undead, he doesn't die of old age, he doesn't die from damage. We've seen him hit by meteors, lasers, lightning bolts. He's taken a lot of different kinds of damage, and he's been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years. That's just the reality of the situation and why he kind of wants to die. You've outlived so many people that you've probably gotten to know and care about that it's no longer really seen as worth it for him. So, I'm trying to make sure to keep this video spoiler light and pretty short, so I hope you guys kind of got an idea of what this series is about. I don't want to tell you everything and have everything spoiled for you, but I highly recommend that you guys check this series out, give it a chance. Yes, the first 2-3 chapters will have some scenes where Andy's dick is out, but it's also censored heavily. I'm telling you that now so that you don't go into the manga like, no, he didn't warn me it was going to get this wild. That is later completely accommodated, so you don't need to worry about it being that raunchy for the entire series. That's more of a shock value thing that I think was intended to like hook people in, and probably more over pushed by the Shonen Jump editors than the actual author, because when I look at the way the story's been structured, it doesn't seem that like that's ever been the priority of the author. It's just having a bunch of shock value, but rather to tell a story about the bonds between people, how it allows them to grow together, and what it means to change, grow, and adapt, and ultimately what it means to take on this challenge and find somebody who you really care for, not only that you care for, but someone that you are willing to die for. So if you've decided that this video has convinced you to at least give Undead Unluck a chance, then also know that this Sunday, because there's no My Hero Academia chapter, the Church of MHA is not taking a break. Instead, we're doing a Sunday OVA, and that will be covering this series of Undead Unluck and Mashal. So if you're interested, show up on Sunday, join the discussion, maybe get caught up so you can, hear the entire, like a panel of people talking about it and how we feel about different character interactions. Obviously, that stream will be a bit more spoilery, so maybe you do want to go ahead and get some spoilers, watch the stream, listen to the content and conversations, and then go ahead and check out the series that way, having some of the previous information already like in your mind so that you know that it's worth reading. I don't know which one you'd like, but I thought I'd make this video to just let you guys know that this is another series that I'm reading in Jump right now. I'm a big fan of manga. I'm currently reading like 10 or 11 series actively, so I figured I'd also bring this to the channel because I like to be able to discuss it, and I'm sure some of you who have been watching the channel for a while have heard us talk about Undead Unluck on multiple streams. So with that being said, there's nothing left to say. I hope to see you Sunday. Aniki out.